Well, hello there, good to see you again. Today I'm going to go through some of the really good questions that I've received in regards to hard and soft staking since it was launched. There have been quite a few good questions, some about how it works, some about ways to implement it, some about ways people would like to implement it. In fact, a way people would like to implement it is probably one of the better questions, and it's one that I'm very happy to answer. I'm going to answer that one at the end because I'm quite excited about answering that one in particular. But let's start off with the first question I'm going to answer, which is one about something to do with the way the staking plan works. And that question is, what happens if the balance is over the amount of the soft target when we get to bet level 5 and the hard target is reset to the level of the soft target? That's a mouthful of a sentence, I'm sure, but it's a good question. So we'll have a look at some examples there. Now, just a bit of a refresher on this. If we get to bet level 5 and we haven't already exceeded the hard target gets reset to the level that the soft target was set at. This is a bit of a safety feature to try to prevent us from getting on this really, really long run trying to chase a target way up here. Instead, we'll just chase a target back here. So we'll get into profit. Might only be just in profit, but it's better than spending forever trying to get up here and never actually getting up there and just having our bet sizes go up, 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 up until our balance goes down, 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 down. Better to just be a little bit safer and go for here and eventually get there. So because we're resetting this hard target, it's possible to have the win at bet level 4, get to a balance that's, say, here. Our hard target may have been up here, might not have even been set, but our soft target was, say, here. We get to here, and we reset that hard target to where this soft target was. So we're sitting with a balance that's higher than our hard target now is. What happens there? Well, we do continue betting at this point, and there's three possible things that could happen here. So the first scenario we'll look at here is if we win on that bet. In that case, as you can see, well, we've had a run here where our soft target was at 100. We never actually managed to exceed it until we had this win on bet level 4. That got our hard target to 106, but because we've had a win at bet level 4, we go to bet level 5, and therefore we reset that hard target to the soft target value, so our hard target is 100, even though our balance is 106. We win in this case, and we end up with we end up well and truly exceeding our targets, and we start again after that. So that one's nice and easy. Now the next possible scenario, keeping with the same staking and the same targets and the same results, is that we might, instead of winning on bet level 5, we might lose on bet level 5. So in that case, using that series that we were looking at there, our balance would now be at $81 after this bet level 5 loss, which is below the hard target as it's been reset. In that case, because our balance is now below that hard target, we are going to continue. So the betting would there continue. Let's look at a different scenario. And this is one where at bet level 4 we've had a bigger winner than we had in the other scenario. So that's actually put us a fair bit ahead of where that soft target had been. That soft target had been at 100. Now we had a winner paying $5 instead of the $2 that we had in the previous examples. So that's put our balance up at $161.20. It's put the hard target up there as well, but of course we've hit that bet level 5, so the hard target gets reset back down to 100. Well, in this case, we're looking at a loss on bet level 5. So this is the third possible thing that could happen. We can have a loss, but our balance is still above the new hard target. In that case, we accept our profit there. In this case, it ended up being $36.20, and we start a new series. So I suppose the simplest way to look at this is that if we get to bet level 5 and our balance is higher than the new hard target, we are going to play that bet level 5. And where we go from there depends on where our balance is. We win, we lose. If we win, obviously we're going to be above the hard target there. If we lose, well, we might be below the hard target, in which case we would continue, or we might still be above the hard target, in which case we'll accept our slightly smaller win and reset and move on. So another question that's been asked relates to an example I showed in the first video about hard and soft staking, where I was demonstrating the staking plan as overall. One of the examples I showed there was a series of bets where I had greyhound favourites, unless the favourite was odds on, and then I went a little crazy and went to the second favourite, whatever odds it might be. Now, the odds-on favourite happened to win quite a few of those, but the second favourite, paying some higher prices, happened to have a few decent winners as well. Now, because the odds-on favourites had some rather good wins in there, it did mean that I ended up in a very, very long series, which ended up at some quite high stakes. People have noted that one managed to escape from catastrophe because some of the winners were paying quite high prices. In fact, if you look at the bottom of the series here, the last bet here was a winner at bet level 25, paying $9.50, and there'd been a couple winners before that had helped to get it out of a terrible spot, but that one sealed the deal and got it into a profitable position, and a nice decent profit too. But nonetheless, it was a rather bizarre series, and I've had people look at that and say, but this only worked because you had some high-priced winners in there. Show me just the favourites. Fair enough. I did actually have a couple other series in that video which were just favourites, but fair enough, people want to see how this would look with just favourites. Well, I don't have that series with just favourites because I didn't keep track of exactly which dog was favourite and wasn't in each race, and I didn't jot down the prices to even estimate that for the ones that lost. So instead, what I've got here is a series that I've put together based on favourites over the last 3 days of greyhound races in Australia, New Zealand and the UK. So we're looking at Sunday, Monday, Tuesday races. Now for this, I've had a bot that's been just watching every race and looking at the favourites. I've had it looking at favourites paying between $2 and $4, so over 2 and under 4. So it has to be from $2.01 to $3.99. So it's a fairly narrow range, but it's just the favourites in that range. And if we have a look, you can see it's done quite well. It's had a few runs where it's looked like it's going to have a bit of a terrible time, but it's recovered pretty well after that. There are those periods where you get a bunch of losses in a row, but it has recovered nicely. Now, as I say, this is 3 days worth of Australia, New Zealand and UK. Every race where the favourite was within that $2.01 to $3.99, and you can see it's come out ahead here pretty nicely. 39% win rate at $1 per race as its base stake, and made a profit of $175.13. ROI of 10%, 397 bets placed, and if we just have a scroll down, you can see there's been quite a few times where it's got up to, say, bet level 8. There have been times where it's It's got beyond that, I think. If we scroll down far enough, yeah, we've got, in one case here, getting up to bet level 17. So yes, it has had some runs where it's taken a while to recover, but it's done pretty well in doing so. The interesting thing, I think, is despite all of these long runs, if we look, the lowest it's got in terms of profit and loss overall, the lowest it's really been is minus $38. Minus $38.14, I think. So, yes, it's had some long runs against it, and yes, certainly if you look at where it was prior to that, say $38, it had previously been up 43, so yeah, that's a good 70 plus, probably $80 down from where it was. There's another one here from $55 up to $26 down. So yes, there's a fairly significant drop there. Again, 80-ish dollars, but it recovers. So there you go, just the favourites in greyhounds. Now, I was just level staking these just in a bot just so I could get this data to put it in, because as it is I don't have a bot to do this automatically, and I can't sit in front of the computer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to place all of these bets. So this is just an example series, but there you go. Favourites across greyhounds, across Australia, New Zealand, UK for 3 days, and there you go. Those are the results. So another question that's been asked a number of times, and it's also a very good question, is can this be used on things other than favourites? And the answer there is an absolutely emphatic yes, definitely. It's up to you what you use it on. It really is. I've been showing mainly favourites because you kind of need a combination of two things with this staking plan. You need a reasonable strike rate and you need reasonable odds. Now, those two things work together. Better odds, you can have a lower strike rate. Lower odds, you need a higher strike rate. It's pretty simple. How you balance those things is really up to you. But if you use the basic premise of favourites, generally win about a third of the time. It's an estimate. It's about a third of the time, as a rule of thumb. And we're looking at favourites paying over $2, and most favourites are going to be somewhere in that $2 to $4 range. You'll get a few that'll be outside that, but a lot will be in that $2 to $4 range. When you look at that, so $2 to $4 here, 33-ish% here, you can start to adjust and work out what works for you. So, some examples of some things where it might work. Well, tennis is an interesting one. Now, I'm going to start off talking about favourites in tennis. I was going to talk about things that aren't favourites, but we'll start talking about favourites in tennis. During the Australian Open, ran a series of bets using hard and soft staking, looking at favourites in tennis. Now, I was looking mainly at the Australian Open, but also a few other tournaments that were on around the same time. When the Australian Open wasn't on overnight, for example, there were things happening in other countries. So I actually ran 5 series simultaneously on this with $5 base stake, and some of them did well, some of them did not. If we have a look at Tennis 1, as I've called it. Now, why 5 simultaneous series? Tennis matches take a long time. They take 2-3 hours, sometimes longer. And you tend to get, in most tournaments, a bunch of them happening at the same time, which means that if you're waiting for one match to finish, you might be missing out on 4 or 5 others, which can be a problem. Not necessarily, but it can be. So looking at this one, this tended to work pretty well. It got up to bet level 5 once there. But overall, it seemed to be doing pretty well. I actually stopped this one here because it reached $50. So I decided $50 off a $5 base stake would be a good target. Hits that, I'll stop it and just focus on the others. I was also generally focusing, when I had a new bet to place, I was going on, a lot of the time all of them were busy doing something, so when one series finished, it was just place the next bet in that series. But sometimes I had multiple series that were waiting for bets at the same time because there weren't suitable matches, for example, or it was the start of the day, or there was a delay between matches finishing and me getting around to placing the next bets. So where possible, I was focusing on whichever series was most in need of a win. If we have a look at Tennis 2, this one made $95.44. Now there was a little exception to this. This one wasn't entirely looking at the favourites. It was for all of them except Novak Djokovic on the 21st of January, which was the last match he played in full, if memory serves. Not the match where he retired. I mean, that was obviously, they'd finished a set, so Betfair settles that as a loss in that case, but yeah, this was the match before that. I have, as a general rule, I don't bet against Novak Djokovic. If he's paying very small amounts, I might not bet on him at all, but as a rule, I won't bet against him. In that case, he was not favourite. He paid $2.68, and that paid very, very nicely, so that series got into a good position. Tennis 3 finished down $11.44. It was up to bet level 8 by that stage. Tennis 4 finished up 56.13. That was looking at just favourites. So I did end up just stopping that one there. And Tennis 5 down $92.11. It had quite a poor run towards the end there. Started off okay, but had a poor run towards the end. Was at bet level 9, and I didn't really feel like continuing it. So favourites in tennis, maybe yes, maybe no. I'm not particularly convinced it's a great strategy. Even with a win rate of 2/3, you're not guaranteed to be making a profit there. Well, an interesting comment from Doug on my blog in response to one of the videos about hard and soft staking. He suggested that a past tipster of tennis used to espouse a lay on players priced between $170 and $190 on Betfair. Well, that's interesting, because if we do the maths on that, that roughly works out to backing the one that's paying between $2 and $2.40. So I took the bets from those 5 series and worked out what the odds would have been on their opponents, roughly, just by assuming that the lay price on the one I backed would have been roughly the back price on the one I didn't back. So it's not quite perfectly correct, but it's close enough. And I've gone through and simulated how that would have looked on if I was backing those outsiders, but only the ones paying between $210 and $240. Now, as I said, there were some overlaps, quite a few overlaps in that previous series, but not every one of those previous matches would have been in that range. Still, some overlaps. Overall, 42% win rate, and it was showing some promise. It had a bad run towards the end. Maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't. From that, I'm not entirely sure. Of course, with the fact that this was a simulation and it's estimating the odds of the outsider in the match, and it's betting on some that would have been overlapping, it doesn't quite work out, but it's close enough. I was happy enough to try it out for real, so I have had a test running on that across the last week or so, and that's running at a win rate of 50%. It's currently in profit $9.12 off a $1 base stake. In fact, that's not quite right. It's actually in profit $11.12 off a $1 base stake. This match here, Christian Langmo paying $2.30 at Brisbane later today. The bet is in, but because there's no result in here, the cloud software calculates it as a loss. So it's the last one here. It calculates it a loss. We're actually sitting at $11.12 profit at this point in time. So tennis outsiders paying $2.10 to $2.40, that could work. Something interesting though, I've been filtering these based on the amount matched in the market, and I've only really been looking ahead about 6 hours when I've been placing these bets. And there was one match in there that got rain delay that pushed the match out into 3 days, I think, so I was delayed a bit waiting for that one, and it was a loss anyway. Not a great way to spend a heap of time, but hence the reason, I suppose, for running multiple series with this, but I've just been running the one series. With Betfair, there's an interesting little bug with their website. So if you're looking at the tennis favourites, or just the tennis matches here, I've been filtering on there needs to be at least $1,000 matched in the market before I'll even look at it. But interestingly, the amount you put in here, so see I've got here matched greater than 500, well, that doesn't quite work properly. See here, the minimum I've got here is 1,174. If I change this to 1,000, which just takes a moment to do, I change it over to 1,000, well, suddenly the minimum amount matched it's looking at is actually 2,000. On their website here, whatever amount you put in, it actually doubles that for what it's looking at. So I'm looking at a minimum matched of $1,000, but I have to tell the website that I'm looking for 500. Otherwise, it doesn't show me the ones that are between 1 and 2,000, which is an interesting little bug. Which brings us to the next question. Wouldn't it be great if this worked in a bot? Maybe it could be added to the RPM bot or the ANZ bot. Well, that's an interesting idea. I do like that idea very much. I haven't tested this against any ANZ bot systems, but I have run it against a couple RPM bot systems. Now, for those of you not familiar with the RPM bot, it's the Racing Price Monitor bot. It measures the prices of measures the prices of all of the horses in a race at time periods before the race that you set, maybe 60 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and then shortly before the race compares all of those prices to the current price, and then if they meet your criteria for whether the price now is better or worse than all or some of these earlier prices, it places the bets. Now, Steve's back one strategy works quite well at level staking, works even better at stop at a winner staking. Actually, I don't know if it works at level staking. I haven't really checked that. I think it does, but it certainly works very well at stop at a winner staking. If we instead apply it to hard and soft staking, well, I took a few days worth of data from the RPM bot and put it into here, and you can see, yes, it works quite well. It has a few little runs against, but overall works very well. 34% win rate, profit there $101. You can see prices here. Prices here look pretty good. A lot of them are somewhere in that $2 to $4 range. In fact, I think all of them are. But it works quite well. I also had a look at the back 2 strategy, which is a slight variation I've done on the default back 2 strategy in the bot, and I will have another video on RPM bot in the future. I haven't done one on RPM bot yet, but I will have one in the future, and I think this strategy will be in there. But a slight variation on the back 2 strategy, which by default is in the bot. This one looks at much higher prices, so it has a much lower win rate. In this example, you can see 18% strike rate, but the prices it gets are much higher. Now, the actual win rate of that strategy is a little bit higher than this, but it sometimes backs more than one runner in a race. And just for simplicity, I've gone with whatever the lowest priced runner it's backed in the race is. That does mean that on some occasions I've missed out on a winner for this example, but nonetheless, it still works out quite well. So that's quite good. You can see there are some prices here that $10.50, $16.50, $20, $15.50. A nice winner there at $15.50. There's $17.50 winner as well. There's quite a few nice prices in there. So that strategy seems to work quite well. Another question I have been asked, and I'll get back to the bot question in a moment, but another question I have been asked is, can you use this on more than one runner in a race? Yes, you can. How you would go about that would be up to you. The spreadsheet and the cloud software won't calculate that automatically for you. It's working on the idea that you're staking a set amount. So probably what you'd need to be doing is Dutching your selections if you have more than one selection per race. And you'd need to work out the effective odds of that as well, which would be pretty much as simple as, and I'll put this formula on the screen. So the first and simplest way to calculate this is if you know your potential total payout for your bet, then it's as simple as your potential payout divided by your amount staked. So for this example, let's say you've got $2 bet in total on your Dutch bet here. The total payout possibility is $5. Well, that's simple. $5 divided by 2, your odds, effective odds, are $2.50. It gets a little bit more complicated if you don't have in front of you the potential total payout, but instead you just have the potential profit. In that case, you need to add the potential profit and the amount staked, which in fact gets you your potential payout, but it's your potential profit plus your amount staked. Then divide that number by your amount staked. So taking that example of Dutching 2 horses with the potential total payout of $5, that's a potential profit of $3. So we'd be doing $3 potential profit plus the $2 stake, which is in fact the $5 total payout. Divide that amount by the $2 of your stake, and you get $2.50 as your effective odds. You'll probably want to make sure in most cases that this is over $2 effective odds, but up to you how you want to do that. But yes, you can. It would take just a little bit more work and arithmetic on your part, but sure, why not? If it works for you, then by all means. So we had a look there at what it might look like if the RPM bot had this. What if there was a bot just for hard and soft staking? Well, that's a great question. That's a question I'm actually quite excited about because I have good news on that. There is a bot coming for hard and soft staking. Now, it's not incorporating RPM or ANZ or anything like that. It's the bot that's coming out at the moment is for horse racing, and similar to, say, the Stop at a Winner bots, it is looking at your selections based on favourite ranking and prices. But yes, it's coming. We'll have a little look in the bot here, and I've been doing a bit of testing here on the bot, just some pre-release testing, helping to sort out some early bugs and things like that so that it is ready when it is released officially. So what you're seeing here on the screen might not be the way it finally looks in the end. It probably will be very close to this, but still working out a few little bugs here and there. But you can see from the screenshot here, this is an example I did with third favourites to place, which does tie into, I think, that question of can we use it on things other than favourites. Third favourite to place, you can see, worked quite well. Now in this case, this was a series of bets on Monday. This was across Australia and New Zealand racing. In fact, just Australian racing. I think I did allow New Zealand, but I don't think either there was no New Zealand racing or none of the bets qualified. One or the other, I don't remember which, but you can see it worked pretty well. If I take this into the hard and soft cloud version, all of those results, you can see that's what the graph would look like. The results you see here are actually slightly different because the first bet of the day, Albie's Mate, it was scheduled to go at 1:35 in the afternoon. There was a late scratching there, Sugar Wazy, about 11 minutes after the start time. Now that could just be when Betfair noted it. It may very well have been scratched slightly earlier than that. Nonetheless, it carried a reduction factor of 4%. The bot has worked it out, and from the results it's got back from Betfair, it's worked out that there was a deduction in that, and it's calculated accordingly. So the results in the bot are slightly different to what you see when I just use the price it was matched at in the cloud version. Funnily enough, that deduction there has caused the staking series to go a little bit longer. Rather than stopping at bet level 4, it's gone on to bet level 5, and it's actually resulted in a slightly better overall profit, which is nice. But yeah, the bot is coming soon. I'm still doing a little bit of testing to help Michael and Steve out with getting it ready for release. Hopefully that'll be ready for release soon, and of course I would love to see bots beyond that for greyhounds, and maybe an implementation into some other bots as well later on. But for the moment, yes, there's a horse bot coming for hard and soft staking, so that's very exciting, and hopefully that will be with you soon. And I will keep plugging away at doing testing for it to find any more bugs that might be lurking, and I think most of them are ironed out now, I think. But I'll keep plugging away at that. The more I do on that, the quicker the bot will be ready for you. So looking forward to bringing that to you. hardandsoftstaking.com is the address for hard and soft staking, and I look forward to having exciting information for you about the bot, and hopefully some strategies. Obviously there's third favourite to run a place. I haven't quite given away all of the settings on that yet, I don't think, but I look forward to bringing that to you, and hopefully a few other exciting strategies that you can use in the bot. Until then, good luck with the punting, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.